Welcome to Barbury Castle. Is this easy to get to? Is it easy to climb? Are the views worth it? And could this be the first disabled friendly hill fort that I have visited? I'm Hedley Thorne. Welcome to Hills and Hill Forts. As you can see, it's got a very large car park, and in fact it's got toilet facilities as well. Probably a first on Hills and Hill Forts, but I'm going to give them a spin. Yeah, functional. Barbury seems very well signed from the Swindon junction, so that's a good thing. The other thing seems to be there's no climb up to it from this car park. You park at the level of the hill fort. As for disabled access, do you know what, I think you could probably get a wheelchair down here. You could certainly, for older and less able people, this seems to be a fairly friendly place to visit so far. It's got a sister hill fort nearby called Liddington, which I will cover in a future episode. Liddington is kind of the quieter of the two. It's slightly smaller, sort of rectangular hill fort. Barbury is more sort of oval shaped, and definitely a more popular place to come. Views from both, well, normally they're really good. Today on the way up it was nice and sunny, but obviously there's sort of mist and fog covering the hill fort itself at the moment up here. But yes, hopefully this will be lifting shortly. Here we are, just 500 metres later. We're at the entrance to the hill fort. With a muddy vehicle access there. Luckily we have this gate here to get through. If you can walk, then absolutely fine going from here. It's fairly flat and easy going. I think wheelchairs might struggle a little bit. They might be able to get into the centre of the fort, but obviously not up the banks themselves. Walking around the southern rim of the hill fort, these fortifications are huge, and they would have been even steeper and deeper in their time with a wooden fence around the top. There was really nobody getting in here. It's a double defensive hill fort, a bivalate hill fort, which is obviously harder to penetrate. Probably would have contained 40, maybe a few more huts inside, and the path going through the middle of the hill fort is actually the modern day Ridgeway National Trail. The original path of the Ridgeway, the original route of the Ridgeway rather, would have probably gone round to the north and then cut across the valley over to Liddington Hill Fort. Whilst the weather's murky, I'll just give you a bit more information. There is actually a cafe at the bottom of the hill at the shooting lodge, and it says open to all. So in effect you do have car parking, a cafe and toilets here. I'm going to carry on down here around the ramparts. I'm going to descend down the Ridgeway. Now this is quite steep down here, and there is actually another little car park at the bottom there you can go to as well. This is the parking on the western side. More limited and definitely not as easy to access the top. So the Ridgeway goes up to the left here. I think this is the route of the original ancient Ridgeway crossing here, and then heading off straight down that way towards Liddington. Leaving Barbury Castle for a short while now, going up to Hackpen Hill, where there's the White Horse on the hill. About a mile and a half, 2 miles this direction. Then I'm going to come back via Barbury Castle on the way back. Hopefully by then the fort itself will be clear of cloud. You can see back to the castle now, kind of half in sunlight. So you have Barbury Castle up there and Liddington Castle on the horizon. in the distance there. So I'm hoping that when I come back this way later, it's going to be even more picturesque with the clouds having lifted. While the scenery on this side of Barbury Castle is lovely, I think the other side, coming up from the east, from Ogbourne St George up Smeath Ridge, is more spectacular. It's a long ridge that sort of culminates just before the car park that we started at. Definitely worth looking that side. Here's the first clump of beech trees. Isn't it wonderful? I think these were a sign of wealth when they were planted. I'm not quite sure why they're here. I think there are 3 of them along this section, and after the 3rd one we get to Hackpen Hill White Horse, which is where I'm going to have a coffee. Very quick plug for my other channel, Headley Thorn, where I do mountain wild camping walks and outdoor stuff like that. Clump number 3. And the last clump before Hackpen Hill. I love the various spots along the ridgeway where you can see down to the valley through beech trees just like this. I just met a couple coming the other way who recognised me from one of my exhibitions, and they'd actually bought a picture of mine of Hackpen Hill itself, which is kind of a coincidence because that's where we're going now. So yeah, they were walking from, so they took the bus from Swindon to Avebury, and they're walking back from Avebury to Swindon. What a wonderful walk to do. So yeah, maybe that's one for the future. Now, usually I would go down there to the White Horse. However, ironically, there's a white horse in the way, and I'm not going to be messing with him. I wish there was some way of getting to see the White Horse without actually needing to get in there. I just can't think of a way that I can do it. Right, heading back to Barbury now. I can see it a couple of miles that way. It's no longer in cloud, which is great. I think that the whole trip today, minus the few sort of filming detours, is probably about just over 5 miles. So it's a good walk to do if you just want to get away for a short amount of time. I think actually one of the better ways of doing it might be parking back there at Hackpen Hill and then walking to Barbury and maybe Smeath Ridge and back that way. I'm going to find a little footpath to take off from so I don't disturb anyone, and see if we can get some lovely aerial shots of Barbury Castle, and then I'm off to the car. So I think it's probably a good time to say thank you for watching. I think that it's definitely worth a visit. It's a wonderful place, and I hope you have as good a time when you come here as I did. Anyway, here is Barbury Castle, and thank you for watching Hills and Hill Forts.